Let's start with your reaction to what the president said. No mention of abuse of force by police, the issues that minority communities face that obviously are a big part of fomenting what's happening and reverberating around the country, and then going and holding up the Bible and saying that states like yours need to come in and dominate and stop this movement before it grows.
Chris, I think that Donald Trump has combined the worst of George Wallace with Richard Nixon. When he talks about end it now and then dominate the streets, dominate, it literally, one iteration of dominate is about supremacy. And that's what Donald Trump is about. And let's be clear about it. He has spent full time from the time he ran for president throughout his term in office, full time trying to sow hate and division among the American people. And what he is right now doing in terms of invoking the American military, threatening the American people with the American military, use of the American military against its own people. He is not a commander-in-chief. He is a divider. He is clearly scared, and he cannot meet this moment that he has partly created because of his inability to understand the pain and the suffering. Right now, America is raw. Her wounds are exposed. And instead of having a president who understands it, who empathizes, who lifts up the spirits and acknowledges the pain, we have someone who chooses to hold up the Bible like a prop for his own political gain and for a photo op. And that's just the reality of where we are. Look, in the history of America, we have to have leaders who acknowledge black people have been treated as less than human in the history of our country. And presently, when you look at what happened to George Floyd. And America has never fully addressed the historical and systemic racism that has existed.
So, Senator,
and instead of having a president who does that, we have someone who fans the flames. And that's where we are right now.
I take your criticism of this president. The past president, Obama, obviously spoke to these issues much differently than this president from personal experience and feeling and just rationale for society. And he put together this commission on better law practices like nobody adopted them. Last night, former Commissioner Ramsey was on here, and he was part of that commission, and he said our report was basically thrown in the garbage. When young men and women come up to you, or even middle-aged men and women come up to you and say, listen, Harris, I like your spirit. I like the way you're going. I like that they're looking at you for VP. But you know nothing's going to change. Obama couldn't change anything. Clinton didn't change anything. This is never going to change. This country does not love us the way we love it. What do you say to give hope that there will be change?
Well, first of all, I believe that to give hope, one must speak truth. So there is certainly truth in saying that it is overly simplistic to say if you vote, this will be solved, because black folks have been voting for generations when we were allowed to. So it is not that simplistic. To give hope, it has to be about acknowledging truth and then fighting for what we know we can achieve. Understanding, for example, that the policing issue is the tip of the iceberg. We need to deal with that, and we need to deal with that by continuing what President Obama and his administration started. They were doing pattern and practice investigations of discrimination by police departments in this country. Donald Trump came in with Jeff Sessions and undid those. Barack Obama and his administration did do the work of enforcing consent decrees on police departments that had been found to engage in misconduct. Donald Trump came in and undid those. So elections do matter, and we can make progress. Continuing on that progress, I'm going to tell you, part of what we need to have across this country, and I'm calling for this as part of the legislation I'm pushing, is we need to have a national standard on use of force by police officers, where instead of asking when there is a show of excessive force, was it reasonable, which is the current legal standard, we should be asking, was it necessary? So that when prosecutors bring these cases against police officers, they have a burden that actually they can meet based on what is a fair standard. We need to be calling for independent investigations of police departments. I speak as a former prosecutor. It should not be the DA or the state's attorney's office who works with that police department every day who's doing those investigations. It should be an independent entity, and that could be the attorney general of that state. It could be U.S. attorneys, but it needs to be independent. There are things that we need to fight for, but we have to also hear the voices of pain. We need to acknowledge them. We need to respect them. And we need to also understand that this cannot be an issue that it's only black people and people of color fighting for. Racism impacts every American. Not just as a moral issue, but as a practical issue.
Senator, I remember you telling me early on when you were making your run for the nomination that the answers to this don't lie in the minority community, they lie with the majority, the people in power, the people with the influence. That's what changes culture. The minorities don't have the power to change their own problems, that this has to be a we, it can never be a me. Senator Harris, good luck to you going forward. Thank you for addressing these issues.
You take care, Chris. Thank you.